Jesus, Refugee, Renegade, Redeemer with Bear Grylls is brought to you by Mercy Ships.
mercyships.org. Be part of the adventure. I'm Bear Grylls, and I've been to the highest point on the planet, and I'm now here at the Dead Sea, at the lowest point in the entire world. Get ready for the ultimate adventure. I'm in Israel, following the footsteps of a man who changed the entire world forever. The Refugee, the Renegade, and the Redeemer, Jesus of Nazareth. I've wanted to take this adventure my entire life. Israel is like no other place in the world. Small on the map, but massively significant to human history. It's a land of conflict, contrasts, and cultures. The great intersection between the East and the West, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. It's a sacred land, a land of miracles and ancient wonders. So much of my life has been built around adventure. You know, going to incredible and often wild places. But I've never been on a journey like this. Today I'm following in the footsteps of a man who changed history. Time magazine called him the most influential man that has ever lived. Jesus of Nazareth. And you know, I'm not very religious in the traditional sense of the word. I definitely have doubts, definitely have struggles. But to me, there's something so appealing, so intriguing about this person. He was a refugee. He was a renegade, you know, he was a wild one, no doubt. All the rough people seem to love him, and yet the ruling elite struggled so much with it. What was it that was so unique, so special about him? And how did this guy effectively change the world forever? So I've come here to where the story starts, in Israel, because I want answers. The best adventures in life take us far outside of our comfort zone. I like that. This is definitely going to be challenging physically, but more importantly, it's going to be a spiritual journey. But it's driven by an intrigue, a desire to know more, to find out about the real guy, away from the image that so many of us grew up with of Jesus as this kind of like very formal figure. I want to get to know the real man. This is going to be an adventure for me like no other.
Alpha November, wind 190 degrees 10 knots, runway 15, clear for takeoff. That's Alpha November, 2 minutes, report chopper goes away, and good luck.
Below me is the Holy Land. Nowadays it's called Israel, and a lot of it is wild. Huge desert mountains, fertile valleys, and then desolate salt lakes. It's home to the lowest place on Earth as well, the Dead Sea. It's considered a holy place for 3 of the world's major religions, and is home to a man who changed the course of history. He was a humble, poor builder and carpenter, a man called Jesus of Nazareth.
Here we'll report jump away and we'll ready.
Okay, we're ready to go. I've been told that the best experiences in life, first of all, require a leap of faith. Okay, let's do this! Okay, stop. Let's take it back from the top. Because it's occurred to me that not everyone knows the origin story of Jesus. There's an evil king, a band of shepherds, angels, mystics, a virgin birth. It's a pretty wild tale, and it all starts with a woman named Mary. You might recognize her immaculate image from statues and stained glass windows from the last 2,000 years. But in reality, Mary was a regular teenage girl, pregnant, unmarried, and probably very afraid. She's visited by an angel who tells her she's going to have a baby. And not just any baby, the Son of God. Which was extra complicated because Mary was still a virgin. Thankfully, her husband-to-be, Joseph, still agreed to marry her. And just before the birth of her baby, the Roman government forces them to travel to Joseph's hometown for tax purposes. Like I said, complicated. So together they journey to the little town of Bethlehem, where their baby is born beneath the stars. The only witnesses were a stable of animals, some local shepherds, and later on, some wise men from the east. That's the story from 13,000 feet. So now, let's really dive in. Okay, on the ground, motorbike's there. Time to get this adventure going. Today I'm going to explore the events surrounding Jesus' mysterious birth 2,000 years ago. I'll navigate the trail of some of his very first seekers, the Magi from the East. As the story goes, they followed a star through these very deserts. My journey will take me from the easternmost part of Israel through the unforgiving land known as the Negev. I'll survive in the wilderness, meet with a modern-day shepherd, and do my best to uncover what life was really like when Jesus was born. There's definitely a sense, initially just arriving here, that actually, this wouldn't have been very different 2,000 years ago. It really wouldn't. It's hot, it's barren, it's dusty, it's unforgiving, but at the same time, it's beautiful. And I kind of get a feeling that Israel's going to be surprising at every turn. The life of Jesus is going to be surprising at every turn. What we expect from shepherds or from magi, wise men. And I like that because the greatest adventures, you never know what's ahead. The Negev might look like the middle of nowhere, but this rocky desert is a setting to many epic stories in history and the Bible. When the Israelites escaped slavery in Egypt, they may have hiked through this very spot. Bethlehem and Jerusalem lie to the north, and just a short trek to the south, the legendary fortress of Masada, built by King Herod the Great, or as the Romans called him, the King of the Jews. This incredible fortress stretches across 3 levels of a cliff overlooking the Dead Sea. From this vantage point, Herod's armies could spot any approaching enemy, maybe even the Magi themselves. Every epic story has its villain, and in the Christmas story, no one looms larger than King Herod. Historians say he was incredibly powerful and paranoid. So when the Magi asked him about a newborn king of the Jews, Herod hatched a plan to eliminate the infant Jesus. Amazing, even as a humble baby, this Jesus was already a threat to the biggest world powers. So now, I'm heading into the desert to find out more about this land that so many call holy. If my coordinates are right, I'm about to meet a shepherd who can tell me a little about the harsh realities of life as a desert traveler.
Hello, hello.
Hey, you must be Dindan.
How are you?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. It's a pleasure.
So we got our coordinates
Yeah,
right.
just fine.
Yeah, what a place.
The most beautiful place on earth, I think, yeah.
I meet a shepherd in the desert
Yeah,
with his camel.
yeah. The best animal to walk in the desert is camel, I mean.
Ultimate desert survivors,
Yeah.
really, eh?
Yeah, they're survivor.
And I guess, I mean, you look around at this, just riding through here it was like lunar landscape. You know, it's like
Yeah.
crazy.
It's beautiful, and it's the only place in Israel that it's stayed thousands of years. It's exactly the same.
But it's hot and unforgiving as well.
Yeah, yeah. You cannot make mistakes here.
Yeah, that's true. That is
It's
it.
real desert. I mean,
And I guess people using camels to travel for thousands of years.
thousands of years for sure.
And it's interesting because camels orientate themselves when they're resting, don't they? Away from the sun.
Especially if there is a strong wind, you can see all of them with the backside to the wind. Good instinct for sure.
Throughout history, virtually every depiction of the Magi shows them wandering on the backs of camels. And for good reason. Camels are like the original desert SUV. They can travel 20 miles in a day, carrying up to 200 pounds. They can even go 8 days without water, a big deal if you're trekking through the Negev. A camel's body is specially designed to conserve moisture too. Their urine and dung are super concentrated, and they can even raise their body temperature by 6 degrees before sweating. Of course, we can't know for sure if the Magi used camels, but 2,000 years ago, a camel would be the best bet for a brutal trek like this one.
I have a small camp here, but we can walk from here.
Yeah, perfect. Let's do it.
Okay. This land is very special for my nation, for my family. No place in earth like that.
Wow. And it's difficult to survive here, yeah?
It's the most difficult to survive, yeah.
So even like travelers and traders through the desert, they would need a guide.
For sure. If no, it's too tough here. If you don't know the place, where to hide, where to get water, you have no chance in the desert. Yeah, I mean,
And
2
like-
days you die.
So for like the original Magi, you know, the astrologers from
Yeah.
the east who came, traveled to
Yeah.
Bethlehem following the star,
Following the stars.
what would life be like for them?
In the beginning of the way, easy, but we come here, it's tough. They take a guide, they go up, they're in Bethlehem.
Yeah. And you think of those early desert nomad travelers. They were made of something special. But we get this image of the Magi, these wise men, as like from the Nativity, all, you know, like kings. But the reality is that they were travelers, and they were astrologers, and they were mystics.
And while they only get a brief mention in the Bible, they leave a big impression. As the Christmas story goes, the Magi came from the east to bring gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. According to Bible experts, if the Magi were from the east, that probably means they traveled from ancient Persia or modern-day Iran. That's more than 900 miles or 1,400 kilometers to meet Jesus in Bethlehem, a long way for a baby. Some historians believe that Magi in the ancient Middle East were kingmakers who studied the movement of stars and planets, trying to identify future rulers. So no wonder Herod freaked out when the Magi came to him looking for a newborn king. We may never know their epic story.
But what I do know is that they were brave. They're following a dream, they're following a star, they're following an ancient prophecy that probably people thought was just fantasy. And it's all because in here, something was drawing them, calling them. And that can be powerful. So that's your camp done?
Yeah, this is my camp, this is my son.
Ah, nice.
His name is Eitam.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Eitam, yeah.
Everything you need for life here? Shade, food?
Shade, food,
You
milk.
don't have water, but you have milk.
Yeah, water down the river, you can get water, but I'll try to milk here. You want also to milk here?
Yeah.
You can use the other side. You familiar with it?
Yeah. She might not be familiar with me, but...
No, it's okay, she's nice. She got plenty of milk.
This is why you guys are so strong. Look at you. I mean, goat milk is as good as it gets, eh?
Yeah.
Well, Dun, you are faster than me at this.
Yeah, used
Look
to
at
it.
that, how much you...
Yeah. Cheers.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
delicious
you.
milk. It's delicious milk.
Beautiful. Can I get a feeling that along this whole journey I'm going to meet many people like Dun that maybe surprise and defy one's expectations, and that's a good thing. Adventure's meant to be full of the unknown, and stepping into that, even if it's a little nerve-wracking to do, but that's life, and that's faith. This is great. I mean, to be honest, when I was riding in here, I was kind of like, I was getting tired just riding.
Yeah.
It was hot, but somehow a little bit of milk, a little bit of shade, and companionship.
Yeah.
I mean, these are also good companions.
Characteristic, yeah.
So what is a life like for a shepherd in the desert now, compared to maybe like 2,000 years ago?
In some kind, it didn't change. I mean, you have to look for food for the goat. You have to find water. The shepherd life, it's almost the same, actually.
Yeah, that makes sense. And this is dried goat.
Yeah, that my son prepared. It's a little bit work to eat it, but
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
but he knows the job.
That's good. That's going to give you strong teeth as well. Yeah. So it seemed to be that the life of a shepherd was tough.
Tough, but if you like it, it's the best life, I mean.
Yeah, I guess they'd found a way to survive in this landscape. And
For thousands of
Live.
years, it didn't change.
what is the role of a shepherd? What is a shepherd doing? How do they protect their sheep?
In this day, no more leopards, but leopard was here till...
Leopards.
Leopards, yeah.
So 2,000 years ago, you would have had leopards here?
Yeah, from time to time, even cheetahs came here. But this time, only shelter, water, food, and be careful from poison snake, because a poison snake here.
So I guess in Jesus' time, that's why you got to protect those sheep. You got to protect your herd.
Yeah.
You can't take your eye off it.
No, you have to sleep with them, walk with them, you don't leave them. Yeah.
And it seems that like sheep play such a big part in Jewish culture and in the life of Israelites and shepherds and through Jesus' time.
Yeah, even before. It's part of the history of this region.
Yeah.
And Jesus compared always as a shepherd of the nation, yeah.
It's a close bond, isn't it? Between
Yeah.
the land, the animals.
It was my dream to be a shepherd, to live with the nature. Because all other parts of Israel changed a lot in the last 2,000 years. Here it stayed exactly the same.
We hear that the first people that ever saw the young Jesus, a baby Jesus,
Was shepherd as well.
were shepherds, because the Nativity often says it was a wise man, but actually it was a shepherd
A
was
shepherd,
the
of
first.
course, yeah.
So people of the land.
Yeah, it was farmers and shepherds.
So if you have a herd of like 50 sheep, you're looking after them, you get to know them really well.
Yeah, it's a close bond. I used to know every one of them.
And is there community between the other shepherds?
Yeah.
So what sort of people would the shepherds 2,000 years ago have been like in society?
Yeah, there was a little bit outsiders always, but not like today. That was much tougher. Life was tougher, but there was the perfect on the field, and there was a little bit outsider, it's true.
Sheep and shepherds, you find them everywhere in the Bible. Abraham, the great patriarch of this region, was a shepherd. King David grew up a shepherd. Later in life, Jesus even called himself the Good Shepherd. And yet shepherding is dirty, smelly work, especially back then. As I'm finding out, Jewish culture really values cleanliness. So it's likely that shepherds were outcasts, or at least overlooked and underappreciated. I've also been told that in the Middle East, shepherds were often young girls of the family. In fact, one of the reasons King David may have been so underestimated was that he had a girl's job. But this is what I love about the Jesus origin story. It finds beauty in the common, everyday, and even the dirtiest parts of life.
that seems to be then reflective on so much of how the rest of Jesus's life plays out. Always defying expectations, doing the surprising, the unusual, reaching to everybody, those who often feel outside of normal life. And I think getting behind the religion, right, behind what we think of as Christianity, for me is exciting because often that kind of formal side of it I don't relate to. But the land and the people and the fun and the free side and the kind of that side I like. And I hope we're going to find more and more of that. I like, with the story of Jesus, learning for me that the first people to see the baby Jesus were regular, like not the super well educated. They were the people of the land.
People of the land, shepherds, the most simple people in the community. Yeah.
Speaking to Dundun about the sort of people the shepherds were, it was those that were outside of normal society. They were rougher. They lived off the land, and you know, they wouldn't have had all the kind of niceties. And I like that because so often church, I think, can feel like you've got to be a certain way, you've got to be smart or religious. But actually, the ones that God revealed it to said, you've got to go to Bethlehem. Wasn't to these religious elite, it was to the wild ones, the shepherds. And it says that nowhere else in the Bible does so many angels all at the same time reveal themselves. It said a whole host of angels. You know, their angelic appearances and other stories, but never a whole host. And it was like saved for this one moment for these guys, for the wild ones. If that's true, if that's real, I love it. Thank you for sharing some of this.
Thank you for visiting.
And can I take a little bit of the meat for my travels?
Yeah,
no, just a little bit,
No, we have more.
Really?
Yeah.
Because this is gold dust in the desert.
Yeah, and it's full of energy.
And maybe like a little bit more from her teat, and then I'm happy.
Okay, no problem.
Well, it's definitely been a million miles an hour arriving in Israel and, you know, free fall straight to the desert, straight on the bikes, and actually just to then stop for a second in the desert and to spend that time with Dundun was nice. It was like kind of slowing down, and you realize that sometimes you meet people and they're calm, they're instantly calm, and it's just good just to sit in that shade, drink some goat milk, have some dried goat meat, and talk about life. And so much of it, I said, you know, it's such a hard life, and it is undoubtedly a hard life as a shepherd now, undoubtedly a hard life as a shepherd 2,000 years ago, but he also said, it's easy life, because it's like connection with the land. You're listening to the seasons, and you're moving where the grazing is, and you're looking after your sheep, and you've got that connection and that community, and I don't know, I like that. That, for me, I connect with that, and it slows me down. Dundun, you're a great man.
It was a pleasure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of my country.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You take care.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
My journey through the Holy Land has only just begun, and already it feels like the Bible stories I've heard my whole life are being rewritten. After trekking through the Negev and meeting Dundun, I'm headed northwest in the direction of Bethlehem. I'll meet with a friend who knows a thing or two about the real Christmas story. But first I need to survive my way out of here and hitch a ride.
2,000 years might have passed, but in terms of what it's like here, you know, I can't see another building, a road. Not a lot has changed. Hot, hard, harsh. Not for the faint-hearted.
Journeying through these lands is difficult today, but can you imagine what it would have been like for travelers thousands of years ago? It's hard to believe this brutal landscape contains so much of the Nativity story. The Magi, the shepherds, even Mary and Joseph would have trekked through terrain just like this. If you wanted to make it to Bethlehem, first you had to survive. You've got dry summers, wet winters, and no matter the time of year, travelers would have met their match in this arid wilderness. Back then, there would have been lions, bears, leopards, scorpions, snakes, you name it. Not to mention the robbers who would target travelers along the ancient trade routes over 2,000 years ago. And never imagined Jesus' birth would have been so full of danger.
Yeah, look, that's golden henbane. All of this bush. Nasty stuff. Yeah, you eat that, it will kill you. Even just touching it's gonna mess you up, make you sick. It's just another thing in this desert that's unforgiving and out to get you. Golden henbane looks nice, looks green, looks flowery. Do not go near that. They always say adventure happens when things start to go wrong. I hope not too many things go wrong. But I like the kind of element of the unknown. And I think faith is like that. It's like trying to describe eating ice cream or swimming. You know, it's hard to describe. You need to, when you're in it, then you feel it. And I feel for me this journey of discovery will be a little like this. And I'm excited for that. Yeah, it's Egyptian caper. See these little leaves, very distinct leaves. One of the few good guys that aren't gonna kill you out in this desert. And hasn't got much nutritional value, but it's got salt and minerals. And out here in the desert, that's what you're losing fast. Along with fluids, you're losing those vital salts and minerals you need. Yeah, instantly taste that salt. But for the desert survivor, Egyptian caper can really help you. So right now, the beating heat of the day. Gotta cover up in this. Just anything to cover the head, cooling, keep the breeze flowing between it. Gotta be out of the heat of the sun. One thing there's not a lot of in the desert at the moment is shade. It's going to take 5 minutes, get a little bit of shade, ration this water, and have a bit of Dundon's jerky. This stuff. Actually needs a bit of water with it to soften it. And that goat jerky, shepherd goat jerky, hardcore. Not like the stuff you get in shops. Yeah. They have strong jaws, those shepherds. Trust me. Yeah, sun should start dipping in an hour or so. And then it will get cooler. So much of desert travel. Pace yourself. You know, work out your time. Maybe moving for half an hour and then a few minute rest. Another half an hour. Go shade to shade. You can't find shade, make shade. Ration your water, have a plan, try and stick to the plan. Move at night as much as you can. Really, you want to minimize your movement in the heat of the day like this. Yeah, hard.
If the Magi did take this route, it makes sense that they traveled by the cool shade of night. Of course, we also know they were following a star, which acted like a GPS, guiding them to their destination. Which brings up another great mystery in this story. What exactly was this star? Well, I've discovered there are some wild theories. For example, in the year 5 BC, Chinese astronomers recorded the appearance of a broom star, or a comet. It appeared within their Ox constellation for more than 70 days, certainly enough time for the Magi's journey. But stars weren't the only sign drawing people to Jesus. Ancient Jewish texts record over 300 prophecies about the Messiah, like the prophet Micah, who said the coming ruler would be born in Bethlehem. He wrote this over 700 years before Jesus' birth. The Jewish people had waited for centuries for the Messiah, and finally it seemed that all the stars were aligning. When traveling through the desert, there's one thing you've got to find fast: a way out.
There's a car, come on. Okay, we're gonna flag this guy down. See if he can give us a lift. Hey! Hey, can I get a lift?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you, thank you.
Today, Bethlehem is a bustling town in the Middle East. The supposed birth site of Jesus is now a holy site. But I want to know what it was really like. In Jesus' time, Bethlehem was a humble village full of farms and farmers, livestock everywhere. Sacrificial lambs were born and raised for their use in the temple in Jerusalem. And while it was once the home of King David, the famous shepherd turned ruler of Israel, Bethlehem was about as far as you can get from a royal palace. Even the name itself is common. They tell me Bethlehem in Hebrew means house of bread. In Arabic, house of meat. Either way, this is a place of basic necessity and survival, and this is where Jesus was born. Where our story picks up, Mary and Joseph are traveling about 120 kilometers or 80 miles from Nazareth to the little town of Bethlehem.
In so many ways, this was a nightmare scenario for them. You know, you got Mary, who's pregnant outside of marriage. That would have been a scandal in her community. Joseph's told in a dream, stick with her, it's part of the plan. Then all of the males have to go to their hometown to report for a Roman census. So they're on the move, they're trekking, hiking. She's heavily pregnant. And then when they reach Bethlehem, it is far from ideal.
I've come to a small kibbutz in northern Israel to meet my friend Suriel, a local guide and biblical expert.
Hey, Suriel.
Hello, Bear. Thank you
How
for
you doing?
coming.
I'm here to find out what the Nativity story was really like for those who lived it. Animals and all.
Yeah, what a lovely donkey. Well, donkey, didn't they? They traveled on donkeys a lot.
Well, not that much, of course. They had donkeys, but most people would just walk. You know, they would walk a lot. And we're talking about the birth of Jesus. We're talking about Mary in her 9th month. and they had to walk over 70, 80 miles all the way from Nazareth to Bethlehem. So I hope they did have a donkey.
Well, that's a long way to walk.
It is.
8, 9 months pregnant, wow. So did they go to somewhere like, I don't know, like this, like a farm?
Yes, it will be something like a farm, you know, but it's a private house and not necessarily like that spot with the donkey, but you can see over there, there is a corner that it might be looking like that.
Well, like this one?
Yeah, maybe something like that.
With a ton of animals. Yeah, look, I guess this is where the animals are.
Donkeys, you know, and they will try to keep them as close as possible, both for safety reasons.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So they'd often live really close to the animals. Like how?
Yes, they did.
In buildings, how would they live?
Yeah, they would have 1 floor or 2 stories high buildings, not that high, you know, most of them. Sometimes it would be a cave under their home, at the side of their home. Of course, it's not that you have 30 sheep there. It's not that. You'll have 2, 3. If you have many, they will probably be somewhere else. This is how they would live like back then.
So like a few animals because, A, you want to keep them close to you so that it gets stolen.
If you want to milk, you know, your goat, you don't want to go now half a mile every morning to do that. If you want to get eggs, whatever they had back then, you want it outside your, in a sense, your bedroom. You go there for your kitchen and so on. And for the safety of the animals themselves, remember that too.
Yeah. So why didn't, like Mary and Joseph, she's about to give birth, there's a place for the animals, but then maybe upstairs there's a place where a family would live. Why were they not with a family?
Okay, it wasn't their home. They came all the way from Galilee, from Nazareth to Bethlehem, you know, over 75 miles walk. And when they get there, they need to find a place, okay? There was something that was called censos or censos when they would count the people, and that's why they had to come back to Bethlehem. Now, if everything is full, we don't know if it was an inn like a motel that it says, or it was just a guest room, you know, that inn, so-called kataluma, the word that is used in the Greek word. It's a kind of a guest house, so they come there, it's full. Maybe there are other people that already came to stay there, and they are the last ones, so, okay, where would we go? And also, she's pregnant. You know, you want a quiet place, warm spot.
And then she starts to, like, go into labor.
Right.
So maybe being with the animals is warm, safe, and private.
We wouldn't necessarily plan, you know, the birth of our Lord in such a spot. Okay, the manger is here somewhere again. It gives us the understanding that there are animals around him. We don't know how many, but there were animals.
I think so many people around the world are just so familiar with that nativity scene that many of us in Christian countries grow up with, you know, of the nativity and the angel and the baby Jesus in a manger. But even though I kind of knew it wasn't going to ever be like that, I think I'm surprised at how rough it was, how kind of stinking and bottom of the pile and desperate a situation this was. He was saying it was probably in a cave, you know, where half of it is where they sleep and the other half all the animals corralled in. It's going to be stinking. It's going to be about as rough a place as it's possible to be born. Who were the people that visited him?
Okay, so we have the shepherds. They are the first ones that are coming to visit Jesus. On the same night that he was born, the shepherds were outside Bethlehem, okay? They were shepherding their animals outside. Normally, the shepherds are not at the circle inside the city because they are farmers. You don't want shepherds to cross your field. They would destroy it, so they always had to keep a certain distance outside the city or village.
So they must have been kind of half excited to come in, but also a little apprehensive.
They were terrified to see an angel at night. You know, they are there, it's dark and everything in the mountains. Suddenly an angel, and then they were surrounded by angels from all over. Whoa. And then go to Bethlehem. You know, the Lord, the Christ was born. And they go there immediately.
And what do you think they expected to see? I mean, bear in mind, you say there's like angels all around them.
Again, no one. If you think about shepherds, who would think that the angels will go first of all to tell to shepherds that the Christ was born?
So what do you think they expected to see?
I guess a royal king, you know, a nice couple that is dressed very, very nicely with some bodyguards around, a nice vehicle or nice donkey, you know, parking outside, whatever it was there. This is what they would expect. If God is sending angels to tell them about the birth of Christ, you wouldn't expect a couple that sits there somewhere with animals and manger.
So what was the reality? I mean, here, there is a strong smell here.
Think about an awkward scene. Again, if your wife, you know, is there, she just had her baby, and suddenly a group of shepherds or bus drivers or taxi drivers, they are suddenly entering, breaking into the door and say, hello, we came to see the baby. How would she feel? How would you feel as her husband? But from the first moment of Jesus' birth, he was reachable in a sense to the common low-level people.
That's a humble, humble beginning. You know, if he's like meant to be the son of the Almighty, you would think, this is not what you expect.
So Jesus is coming to be accessible to everyone. Everyone. If he would be born in a palace, you can imagine that the shepherds would never be able to enter. The guards will tell them, who are you? You can't enter over here. You can't see that baby. But Jesus, from the moment he was born, it was for, first of all, the simple people around him. And this is Jesus.
But I suppose what I was surprised at is that all these people expected, even the shepherds have been told to go, you're gonna go and see the Messiah. Everybody in Jesus' life expected him to be the king. And from the very get-go, from the beginning, as that newborn baby, born into this stinking place of animals and, you know, smell and grime and dirt and probably blood and all of that. From the very beginning, it was turning things upside down, rewriting those expectations, defying the rules, counterculture, topsy-turvy. The king is born in the lowliest of places. What then happens? Why do they then leave?
Herod the king, there is a king in Judea, he hears about the fact that the king of the Jews was born. He hears about that. He said, what do you mean the king of the Jews? I'm the king of the Jews.
So what do we know about King Herod?
He was a genius, okay, great builder, but he was living out of fear all his life. He was very paranoia, always. Herod killed his wife, he killed 3 of his sons, he killed so many people around him. He had no problem to kill anyone. But the moment that he hears that there is so-called a new king that was born, he sent his troops, his soldiers, to find that boy. He wants to know who is that baby that threatened him. And if we are not sure who is that baby, we will kill all the babies around Bethlehem. And imagine Joseph and Mary. They are terrified. They escape. They run for their lives.
That's where they become refugees, I guess, fleeing for their lives.
I never used to think of Jesus and his family as refugees, but that's the reality of their story. They were forced to leave their homeland and live amongst the pyramids. Perhaps the Magi's gifts of gold, frankincense and myrrh funded their emergency evacuation. The family remained in Egypt until Herod's death made it safe for them to return. Very little is written about these early years, so we can only imagine the hardships they faced as a refugee family.
I have this image sometimes of nativity, and it's all Christmas and nice. And, you know, this is probably a palace compared to what they had.
I think it's an amazing thing, you know, to know where they started from and where Jesus started from. There is, in a sense, almost no lower point than this point that he can start from.
No lower point. For God, that's quite an entrance.
Of course, this is only the beginning of the Jesus story. After his birth in Bethlehem and his time in Egypt, this poor Middle Eastern refugee would return to his homeland. He would navigate the Jordan River with his wild man cousin, John, and from there, his survival skills would be put to the ultimate test, a 40-day trial in the wilderness.
Woo!
And that's what we'll explore on my next adventure. From the lowest point on earth to the Sea of Galilee, I'm traveling through Israel on a quest to find out what this man Jesus was really like. I want to uncover the highs, the lows, and all the gritty details of this refugee, renegade, and redeemer who changed the world forever.